Hello, I'm Dominic Hobson, co-founder of Future of Finance. My guest today is Phantom Seokgu, founder and CEO of the Sovereign Wallet Network and project lead of the Meta MUI Blockchain, which combines decentralization, speed, scalability, security, identity, and privacy. An early use case for such a combination is Central Bank Digital Currencies, or CBDCs, whose acceptability as a means of payment depends, in most jurisdictions at least, on their ability to support high volumes of transactions, defeat financial criminals, and be totally secure, while also preserving personal privacy. Phantom, thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much. It's an honor to join this webinar.
Now, Meta MUI, as I've indicated in my opening remarks, solves the need for, first, a central intermediary, classic blockchain, but secondly, it also solves the need for proof of work or proof of stake to settle a transaction. How does Meta MUI do that?
So, first of all, there is a little bit of a misconception about eliminating the intermediaries. And as you know, that Satoshi Nakamoto in his paper, in the Bitcoin original paper, claimed that this is a peer-to-peer electronic cash. So he claimed the blockchain system that we know today is the decentralized system, eliminating the intermediaries. It is true that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency and other blockchain technology do eliminate the centralized intermediaries, but instead they introduced lots of decentralized intermediaries. So actually, this is not really a true peer-to-peer payment, because it's still there is intermediaries, even though it's decentralized and in the form of miners and then blockchain nodes. So without the blockchain node and consensus protocol, we cannot do direct interaction between the sender and the receiver. So we still need like a requirement to develop true peer-to-peer system. And Meta MUI is the first true peer-to-peer payment system without any kind of intermediaries. So in the Meta MUI system, the sender sends the money, and this is a more like a authorized signature. So similar to the banknote, there is in the Meta MUI system, we have a concept of banknote. This banknote is similar to blockchain node, and that is similar. But one thing difference is that this banknote can issue the banknote, and it is issued to the sender, and then sender can receive it, and it can authorize a transfer by signing, digitally signing. Is receive the banknote, and then receiver can also verify both this banknote signature and then send the signature. And once its signature is verified, it doesn't require any kind of consensus protocol or intermediary action. Mm-hmm. So this is one of first true peer-to-peer payment system. Did I explain it correctly? If you have any questions, this is a new concept, so you might have some more questions.
You did. I just want to understand one thing, which is because it is true peer-to-peer, you don't need miners, you don't need proof of work, you don't need proof of stake anymore either. Is that a function of it being peer-to-peer?
So, and there are lots of misunderstanding in the consensus protocol. People might know that proof of work and proof of stake is a consensus protocol, but there is a little bit more clear definition of the consensus protocol. As you know that in the blockchain system, there is a node, they are the mediator, and then kind of validator and prover. They need to validate and prove the transaction record is correct or not. But during this process, so we need to define 3 consensus protocol. One is the election process. So we need to decide who will initially propose or who will write the actual transaction record. And the second protocol is that if there is a multiple record in the blockchain system, and then we need to decide which record, which transaction is the correct one. We have to select only one transaction in the system. That's the true meaning of consensus protocol. And the third one is we need a confirmation protocol, whether this recorded written transaction is the final one. If my transaction, meaning that my transport information is inserted, written in the blockchain, and we need to make sure that this is a final and then confirmed. So in the Bitcoin protocol, there is no election, the proposer protocol, consensus. So in the Bitcoin, anyone who mine the blockchain, so meaning that anyway, so there is a miner. So we heard about the proof of work. Miner can decide. So miner is a part of the selection protocol, but the second protocol, that if there is a fork, meaning that there is a 2 different record in the system, and we need a consensus protocol to make a decision. This protocol consensus is called the Nakamoto protocol, Nakamoto consensus. This is actually the consensus protocol we call the longest chain. So if there is a record in the one chain and then another record in the longer chain, then we make a decision that record in the longer blockchain is the correct one. This is the consensus protocol for the Bitcoin. And proof of work is a part of the election process, and then part of the decision process. And in the Bitcoin and other blockchain system, there is no protocol that make a decision to have a confirmation. So you may heard about in the Bitcoin is actually probabilistic consensus. We never know our record is even inserted in the blockchain, but whether it's really final or not. There is no guarantee that this block, my record block, is a final or not. So that means there is no confirmation protocol. So it's a probabilistic protocol. That means we have to wait. So if there is a 6 block is inserted and then accumulated after my transaction record, then we can say that it's almost possible that it's almost confirmed, but it's not really 100%. There is a slight chance, probabilistic possibility that it might be orphaned, meaning that it can be deleted in the blockchain. So there are many people think that this proof of work or proof of stake is a consensus protocol, but it's only the part of the protocol. And we need to design these 3 consensus protocol in a very clear and distinctive way. So one of the advances in the consensus protocol is that in the modern blockchain system, we have a clear definition of block proposer protocol. So that maybe something like in the algorithm, they using the verifiable random function to make a decision that whether I'm the proposer or not. And so if you make the protocol clearly defined. And if you define the proposer from the beginning, even though instead of allowing any random number and number of people to propose a block, if you can make it simple, we choose the proposer, just a single proposer. This is one of the design that most of the advanced blockchain system does. Then we can make it much, much faster. So instead of allowing anybody to write the block, then if you choose in advance that the person or the node to write the block, then we can make it much faster blockchain system. And we also follow the kind of system. But one thing advanced is that we are using the identity-based blockchain. It meaning that this is a permissioned public blockchain. We can allow many the node or the new person to enter into the node, but we make a decision. We need a permission or the voting of a pre-existing member to join the network. That means every node and participating participant of the blockchain system, we know exact number of people, and every node is identified. So in the blockchain system, we make it this kind of much faster and then more efficient and clear defined system. And if you changed fundamental shift from anonymous blockchain system to this identified system, you can make it many things very simple and clear.
Public permissions sounds like a contradiction in terms. Are you saying that the network is open to anyone who wants to join, provided they can meet certain criteria and the existing members of the network vote to admit them? Is that what public permission means?
Yeah, that's exactly.
Okay.
So if you look at the other cryptocurrency and the public blockchain system, many of the problem, especially the performance problem, is related to allowance of this anonymous and dynamic entrance to the system. Mm-hmm. So if you allow anybody to join and anybody to write the system, then you need lots of complicated consensus protocol and decision-making process to make it secure and the correct one.
So you've solved the scalability problem. You can have an unlimited number of nodes joining your network.
Yes. So scalability problem is especially important one in the current blockchain system. As you know, that many people claim that blockchain is a decentralized system, and there is a confusion that if it's a decentralized system and lots of nodes in the network, and then people naturally think that this many different nodes can work independently. And then if you add more and more nodes, you can make it faster. But this is not true. In a blockchain system, the problem is that it's not really decentralized at all. I mean, of course, it's decentralized in the form, in the structural point of view. There are a lot of blockchain nodes, and apparently it looks very decentralized. But in the operation point of view, it's very centralized and serialized operation. So, as you know, that for example, Ethereum claimed that it's a world computer, but what it said is that all the blockchain node forms a virtual single computer and can process the transaction in one by one in a very serialized fashion. This means that you are buying a coffee in UK, someone in Korea and someone in other country have to wait until your transaction is processed and then cleared. Mm-hmm. That means, let's say, if we ever build a world reserve currency based on this current blockchain architecture, then everyone in the world have to wait in line to be processed. Even though we have a supercomputer, there is it's not scalable at all. So if you have let's say 1 billion people, I mean we have 5 billion people around the world, then that means if a person requires 1 transaction per second, and then we need to have 5 billion seconds per second processing. But because of this serialized operation structure, this is a protocol problem, and it cannot be solved. So only way to have this globally scalable currency system is that we need to decentralize the operation, and meaning that we need to distribute the operation and separate the operation and process the transaction in parallel. That means people in London and people in the Seoul, the transaction have to be processed independently and in parallel. This kind of structure is required. And Meta MUI is a multi-chain system, and it's one of the first blockchain systems that achieve this true parallel and independent operation. And combining these two things, parallel operation and true peer-to-peer system, we can achieve millions of transactions. I mean, we can achieve billions and trillions of transactions if you add more and more, because we achieve this separation of the transaction processing. And if you think about in the future, we are expecting the Meta MUI, Metaverse and IoT. So IoT, Internet of Things, meaning that we have a M2M commerce. As in normal blockchain technology system, we can process about 1,000 to 3,000 transactions per second. The faster one is up to 10,000 to 5,000, 50,000. That's almost maximum. But even with this human transaction, like people is buying coffee or buying a food, this kind of transaction requires more than millions of transactions. But if you add in the future that the machine will do the financial transaction, like your refrigerator in the kitchen will buy the food by themselves, and then your car, self-driving automotive vehicle will buy the electricity on the road. And this kind of M2M commerce and the future of Metaverse society, we need billions of transactions and trillions of transactions. Without a fundamental shift in the protocol and the design of the blockchain system, we cannot achieve this kind of M2M commerce. And in the Metaverse and this M2M machine commerce, we cannot use the paper money to do the transaction. We need a really fast and secure and true peer-to-peer, so that we can achieve offline payment, etc. So there is one requirement that we need to fundamentally redesign the blockchain system to meet the needs of regulatory framework. For example, first, like a financial system cannot use the cryptocurrency technology. So in the future, that if let's say that in the metaverse, not only just the people, but also the shops and then government organization have to enter into this digital space and do the interactions. And this government and the bank cannot use the cryptocurrency anonymous-based currency because there is a possibility of money laundering and other regulatory framework. So they can use the blockchain system that satisfy the financial regulatory framework. So we need to change from the design of anonymous blockchain, anonymous token-based blockchain into identity-based blockchain. And also people may argue that we need a concern about the privacy. But and one way to achieve this dilemma, there's kind of decentralized, identity-based blockchain while preserving people's privacy, personal privacy, is that we can use the decentralized identity system called self-sovereign identity. So self-sovereign identity is the identity system that protect user privacy much more than centralized identity system with the anonymous blockchain. So by adapting decentralized identity blockchain and identity-based token blockchain, combining these two systems, we can achieve rigorous compliance and also the much better protection of user privacy, and also this compliant with the GDPR and other privacy protection laws. This is the kind of concept of Meta MUI system.
Can I ask you to tell us more about this digital identity idea and component you have? As I understand it, the idea here is to bind ownership of the bind digital identities to the digital assets, so that ownership of an asset and this asset is mine become part of a single structure. Now, doing that requires obviously these self-sovereign digital identities to be widely available, and I'm wondering how that's going to come about. Can we rely on consumers themselves or companies to start adopting these digital identities, or do we expect governments to drive that process? Do we have to agree a set of attributes, a set of documents, if you like, which define what is a believable digital identity? In the end, what comes first here? Is it going to be Meta MUI, because the technology is so powerful, driving the adoption of digital identities, or is it digital identities going to help Meta MUI to grow and, as we said at the outset, get adopted by the likes of central banks, because it's not only secure and fast, but it's also private? Tell us more about how digital identity is going to work with Meta MUI and how it can all happen.
Yes, and of course that not only just people and the shops and the government all have to agree on this technology and then enter into this market or adapt this standard. Otherwise, it won't work, right? There is no compatibility, and then there is a problem. And if you think about how to achieve this goal, is that we can think about the way that internet was adapted. Before internet, there is a telephone network and banking network. And this is all heterogeneous network. Each country have their different standard and try to expand to the globally. Interoperation and integration, step-by-step improvement was required, but their penetration ratio and adaptation ratio is not really satisfiable. But there was now there is an internet. Internet is that protocol-based and then standard-based approach. And the self-sovereign identity that we are using is similar to the internet approach. So internet approach just set up the standard and the protocol, TCP, IP, and protocol. Anyone can adapt to this protocol and then standard. It can be interoperable. So self-sovereign identity is not Meta MUI defined. This is a global standard and Web3 consortium standard. That means this is same as internet-based, internet-style adoption, and we are using we define the permissioned public identity blockchain on top, utilizing this self-sovereign identity standard. So any government, any shop, any system that adopting this standard can be interoperable and can be used. So this is the way to establish or build a globally scalable system from the beginning. We are using the same philosophy and then success story of the internet. So basically this digital currency and metaverse, everything is now we are building everything on top of the internet. As you know that internet is the most widely penetrated and deployed system. So if you think about the financial inclusion, then if you're gonna evolve a current banking system and try to reach every corner of the world, it may happen, but I'm almost sure that not in our lifetime. That kind of thing will be possible. So how we can accelerate the adoption of this financial inclusion and and deploying the account to the people who doesn't have a banking account. So one way to do it is to use the now we have an internet most widely deployed, and it can reach almost every corner of the globe currently. And let's build a blockchain-based, internet-based digital currency system, and also identity-based account address. So current system is that we have a digital currency that is based on the banking account. We have a very advanced credit card and arts card and other mobile payment. But there's one condition: people need to have a banking account. Otherwise, they cannot use this advanced digital payment system. And to achieve financial inclusion, we need to give everyone the account equivalent. And if you utilize this self-sovereign identity and identity-based accounting system, and anyone with the identity can have the account. So we can not only give the person, the people, the account, but also we can give every machine and every item to the DID, digital identity. Then we can achieve globally scalable and globally compatible accounting address. And this is a very important shift in the approach and the design of the global financial system. That's what Meta MUI is pioneering, and we are moving fast. And anybody adapting the same global standard can interact with the Meta MUI system.
Now, you've talked about this internet as the distribution network. You haven't mentioned mobile phones, but these things, but you have mentioned the need for, or the ability of Meta MUI to accelerate financial inclusion for people who don't have internet access and don't have a bank account. So your vision is of a world which is united through wireless technologies of various kinds. In other words, everyone's going to have, you don't need to go through Google or Facebook with their federated identity to get access to all these, all this data. The data can flow through the internet, it can flow through the telephone networks. So you're really describing or the vision you described of the Internet of Things with trillions of transactions. I don't know whether you meant trillions of transactions a second, but you meant a lot of stuff going on, a lot of small payments taking place. And the Meta MUI can support all of that and automate all of that because it's built in digital identity. It can work across different types of internet and telephone networks through this sort of single sign-in, and it can support, because of the parallel processing you've described, very high volumes of transactions. It's a kind of multi-ledger, multi-chain structure distributed through the internet and the telephone network, and it's speeded up through parallel processing and standardized digital identities. That's your vision right now.
Right. Yeah. You exactly summarized. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So
perfect. Yeah.
A good early use case of this would be central bank digital currencies, right? Because they need all of those things. And where are you talking to central banks about using the technology for a CBDC?
Yes, we are discussing it lots of countries, and we do discuss with most of the advanced nations about this adapting this technology. And I like to mention about technology adaptation cycle or technology adaptation scenarios. And one thing that in Korea, the internet adoption ratio is very fast was that there is not many stakeholders. So meaning that there is no competing network that don't like that internet to be deployed. There was a cable network. So relatively not well developed cable network system, meaning that we can deploy the new network without much of the friction. But in contrast, in the US, there is a very good cable network company. They don't like this internet to be deployed because it's cheaper and better network that they have. So, and also you can see that in some of the less developed country, the mobile network is much faster because if you have a 5G or advanced mobile network, you don't have to deploy the television network, telephone network, and internet. So you can achieve the multiple infrastructure at the same time. So, but as you know that this, if this CBDC is deployed in the advanced nation, there is lots of frictions. This is a new kind of payment system. And there are established payment operator like the credit card company, and simply say that they can running out of business. I mean, there is a internet-based payment system. There is no fees and instant availability of the funds. But there's much more payment system, even the consumer point of view and then merchant point of view. Mm-hmm. For the merchant, if they use the CBDC, their sales become instantly income, and then their money deposited to the bank account instantly. But if they use the credit card, they have to pay the fee to the service company because they're using proprietary expensive private network to do the processing. And it takes sometimes 1 month or sometimes 3 months for them to the sales of the amount and deposit to the bank. Mm-hmm. And so there is lots of change in the advanced nation. Mm-hmm. And many of the advanced nations, they say that their ATM machine is deployed nationwide, and they already have a credit card and everything. So they don't feel much of need for this new payment system. So there's lots of friction in the advanced nations to deploy the CBDC, and also the privacy issues. And there still many of the country, the understanding of the blockchain system is not really well developed. Still, they are focus on the cryptocurrency-oriented blockchain system. They don't think that identity-based blockchain is possible yet. But this kind of understanding takes time. So our approach is going to the country where there is nothing. So we start with the micronations. And in the micronation, we are discussing with the CBDC about 6 months ago. And the problem is that not only just the CBDC infrastructure was not exist, but also there is no identity mechanism. So what ended up happening is that we have to provide everything in one package. So what it did was providing national identity and CBDC and e-government system at the same time. And this self-sovereign identity is an identity system, but also this is a decentralized public key infrastructure, meaning that you can register your digital signature and you can issue the certificate, the signed document of any kind. And so we can create entirely paperless e-government system. If the government enter into this digital system and establish the digital identity, like digital twins or avatar, the government has a digital twin, and this twin can sign the certificate. So the tax payment and registration of the land and digital stock transfer, or everything can be notarized and certified. And not only the government can do this, but also the merchant can do this. Merchant, we innovated the payment system. The current payment system, if you go to the shop, let's say you're buying a coffee, you go to the shop and order food, order coffee, and you give the credit card to the merchant. And merchant pay the bill, then you receive the receipt. But in the process, there is a possibility of a mistake. So you give the payment system first and receive the receipt later. And if there is overcharge, things like that, then you need to go back and then to the complex claiming process. In our Meta MUI system, we changed it. So when you order things, the merchant sends you the e-bill, electronic document, the bill, and then signed by the identity of the merchant. The merchant is verified, can be verified, and the signature can also be verified. And we have a pairwise trust mechanism, meaning we have a two-way cryptographic communication channel is established. So merchant send the e-bill through the secure channel, and the person, the buyer who received the e-bill, electronic bill, can look at the smartphone and check everything's okay, then pay with the identity-based token mechanism. So this is much more advanced. And not only just this payment can be done through this way, but also the tax payment, other bill payment can be done this way. And this is much more advanced way. By having this decentralized public key infrastructure, meaning that decentralized signature verification mechanism, now we can innovate everything in the digital space.
Right. So the invoice, the payment, and even the tax payment, I don't know, the value-added tax on the cup of coffee gets paid straight away as well. And you can do all that on a mobile telephone network. You don't need internet access to do that. And if so, were there technical obstacles making all that work? I mean,
there is I mean, even though we can achieve peer-to-peer payment, but also in the later on, you need the clearing process. So of course, it's better to have a network. And most of the normal transaction, then we can do even without the internet, but for advanced transaction. And I need to mention about the smart contract. And original Nick Szabo smart contract design was not really fully implemented many of the current blockchain system, because I mentioned about the blockchain forms as a single computer and then do the processing one by one. So having a smart money, the programmable money, meaning that we can delay the process, make it processing much more slower, because this smart contract-based programmable money-based transaction takes 100 times or 1,000 times more slower. Then meaning that if you're gonna implement programmable money, that many of the blockchain project claim that to do it, that requires 1,000 times slower transaction, meaning that means if you can process normal just payment processing thing in about 1,000 times or 2,000 transactions per second, then meaning for the program, if you apply the programmable money, you can only achieve 1 or 2 transactions per second. So in practice, with this previous blockchain system, it's not possible to have programmable money. It's so slow. And so we need this parallel processing. The Meta MUI has a parallel processing. So we and also one thing we innovate is that we run the chain code, smart contract code on the edge of the system. So our smart contract code runs on your smartphone, not on the network of the system. So it can be much faster, and then independent processing is possible. And now we can really implement programmable money without not much of a problem. So assuming that this is possible, then what we can do is that we can have a programmable taxation. So minus tax and Friedman talked about, that kind of thing can be now implemented. And also in the payment processing, actual payment amount of payment will deposit to the merchant, and the amount of tax can be deposited to the government account instantly at the moment of the payment system. And and also we can apply programmable taxation.
Is the Meta MUI technology capable of being applied to other markets? We've talked about payments, about money. Can it be applied to, say, security token markets or markets in non-fungible tokens as well?
Yes, of course. Thank you very much for asking us. That's one of the best field. So there are many of the problems, and one of the major problem is that how can you prove this, let's say NFT and then digital asset market, you create this token or this NFT, then how can you prove that this digital asset is actually legal or have value? In current blockchain system, this is very difficult to do it. But in our identity-based token blockchain system, we can, since we have this signature network, that government who enter into the market can certify that this token or the asset is a true asset that represent the real estate, real house, or it represent the actual gold deposited in the bank. So bank can issue the certificate saying that this NFT certified, now we can have a certified NFT. In the anonymous blockchain system, there is a problem of the issuer. If you receive the NFT, you have to trust the issuer. But since there is no identity mechanism, you cannot trust whether issuer is a real person or just a fake person. And it claimed that this asset is backed by the company stock or the real gold. It represents the real house or the IP, like the carbon credit or patent. But you never know, or there is no guarantee that this is real. But if you have this decentralized signature network, then you can now certify everything. So one claim that one major importance is that with anonymous token-based blockchain, it's very difficult to regulate and certify all these digital assets. But after Meta MUI and then identity-based token blockchain with a digital signature and certification process, we can certify it and prove everything is real. And so this is a big shift. And one more big shift is the ownership of the asset. And in the cryptocurrency and then traditional previous blockchain system, the ownership of the asset, ownership of the token is bind to the private key of the user. Meaning that if you lost the private key, you lost everything. You may heard about someone lost all the amount of Bitcoin because he forgot about the password. The problem is that in the previous sense, this is very vulnerable, very dangerous approach. Like, for example, if you work very hard and then accumulate all the asset and you retire and you forget about the password and you lost all your wealth. So this is a really terrible scenario. And also something like if your parents has a lot, very rich, and then died and without telling you the password, the secret, then all the wealth of the parents is just disappeared. But we need to change that. So Meta MUI bind the ownership of the digital asset to the identity of the user. So the identity and then yourself is the ultimate proof that you are the owner. So in our case, if you lost the private key, meaning that you lost the signature, then you can re-register your signature. We can reset the private key, but still your ownership is bind to the identity. So you still own all the asset. And if your parents used to have a lot of art collections and very precious, not replaceable art collections, then passed away without telling you the password, then what you can do is that after bank order, the court order, if you have a legal proof that you are the descendant of this person, then you'll be able to inherit all the asset, and then asset ownership will transfer to your account, to your identity. So this kind of a new approach really required and can happen in the Meta MUI.
Now, you mentioned earlier the Metaverse, and I know that Korea is probably the most advanced country on earth in terms of making a reality of the Metaverse. People are watching what the Korean banks and brokers are doing very carefully. But once you're in the Metaverse, one of the things you're going to be doing is buying and selling goods and services, which creates a need for payment. And you might be making those payments in cryptocurrency or fiat currency, CBDC. You might be exchanging utility tokens for security tokens. There's a lot going on. There might be stable coins. Yeah. So there is an obvious opportunity there for Meta MUI's technology to apply in the Metaverse. Is that something that an application you're thinking of pursuing? Yes.
Look at the name. We are the Meta MUI. So it's the perfect payment system designed for Metaverse. And our understanding of the Metaverse is a little bit different than many there are also many confusion about what the metaverse is. And many people think that this is just a virtual world, multi-playing game system. But in my opinion, there is a fundamental difference between this virtual world, like a second life in the before, is that metaverse now connecting the real world and the digital world. This is a true meaning of the metaverse. So that means that people, shops, and government have to have a digital twins in the digital space. And that identity and the ownership have to be connected. If you own the house in the real world, you still be able to prove your identity, your avatar in the metaverse owns your virtual house in the metaverse, if it's legal. And if you make money in the metaverse, then if you come into the real world, you should be able to use that money in the real world. This kind of two-way connection and interconnection of these two parallel universes is required. And so since I'm assuming that in the metaverse, not only just the people doesn't care whether it's anonymous or legal or illegal or whatever, but the government and bank should be able to enter into the metaverse and then do the real commercial transaction. They cannot use this anonymous token-based system because there is a law saying that anti-money laundering should be avoided, and then people government want to collect the tax. Many people don't like to do it, but of course, to have a real metaverse system, this kind of assumption should be complied. And I designed the digital currency system and digital system based on the concept of the basic reason why I designed the Meta MUI based on the concept of the identity is that to prepare for this future. So currently this early stage and some of the centralized metaverse system like many of the current gaming world, whether it's a virtual or the real doesn't really matter. But in the future, what true metaverse meaning is that now we are creating the digital nation and digital society. And this one is connected to the real world and the identity of the real person and the real money making and real commerce. To happen this way, I think we should convert everything into the Meta MUI kind of identity-based blockchain system.
Mm-hmm. Now, you've obviously invested a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money in creating this new technology. Mm-hmm. How are you looking to get paid? What's the sources of income of Meta MUI?
So we are one of the first platform-based CBDC system, meaning that anyone, any country who willing to publish the CBDC, they can pay us. They can license. This is a more similar to cloud system for CBDC publication. You can license our system, pay us, and then publish it. Our first country was sovereign agency government inside of Australia. They took about an hour to publish the CBDC. This kind of thing never happened. Never been possible. With the current approach of system integration, SAI-based, custom developed-based CBDC deployment, it takes minimum 6 months and lots of testing and everything, and lots of cost to publish the CBDC. But if you have a cloud system-like approach, the government can publish the CBDC on a very proven, established system and without the fraction of the cost and fraction of the time. This basically our approach. And this is a permissioned public network, and it will evolve into the cross-border payment. So not only just a Meta MUI, but also the central bank and the government will join the node in the form of the bank node, and they jointly operate the Meta MUI network, and it will become a new cross-border payment system. And we are making money by licensing the bank node and also charging some transaction fees to the government, not to the user.
And if anybody watching this interview was excited about the vision you've laid out and the technology itself, can they invest in Meta MUI? Are you seeking capital to take the company to the next stage?
Yeah, I mean, we have a token. Meta MUI also is the token name, coin name, and it is listed on some of the exchange. So you can search through the coin market cap and you can buy Meta MUI. And one of the major design that I have is that many people like the Bitcoin, and there are many controversy about the Bitcoin and the cryptocurrencies, the intrinsic value. How can you prove that this one has a value? Not on, and so one thing I designed about the Meta MUI is that just like you ask, I designed the system that makes money, that profit. So this is the ultimate source of the proof that this token and coin has a value. So Meta MUI is designed to have a value backed up by the future income of the project.
Phantom, thank you very much for taking time to talk to us. It's been a fascinating conversation.
Thank you very much.